Hello, I'm not able to be in class today, but I am still able to record today's lesson. So let's get started. We are going to be in to lesson 5-6, which is our very last lesson we actually um, before we actually start to review for our test, which will be on Friday. But before we do that, let's turn to page 115, 116, and check your answers. So please check over your answers. In the bottom half of page 115. And page 116. If you do have questions about any of these, you could either ask a substitute teacher or you can wait until I return tomorrow and you can ask me then. And then the bottom half of page 116. So after you are finished checking this, please open up your math notebook. If you need to take some time to do that and you want to put me on pause, it's one of the few times you can put me on pause. So today's problem of the day, find the volume. You are allowed to use your calculator, and this one is pretty straightforward. You have the length of 10 inches, the width of 8 inches, and the height of 15 inches. So if you multiply all three of those numbers together, you end up with a volume of 1,200 cubic inches. So that should be your answer, 1,200 cubic inches. So let's turn to page 117 in your workbooks. And today is the last lesson, and it's I can find the volume of a figure composite of right rectangular prisms. So the challenge for today is going to be taking a figure that looks like this and trying to figure out what's its volume. And they start off with the statement, Braden builds a frame in the shape shown. He plans to pour concrete into his frame. Now, their first question is, write the unknown dimensions of the composed figure. Describe how you found the answer. I think that's a little premature. I think they should have given the next question first. But the very first thing you need to do actually is to write or draw a line somewhere on the figure so you can divide it into two equal pieces. And I believe the place where you should draw a line would be right here. Now, as you already know, volume is length times width times height. And length is along the bottom. So for this bottom figure, we know very clearly that 5 feet is the length. We know the width is along the side, and that's going to be 2 feet. And we know the height is over here. So for the bottom figure, it's pretty easy. 5 times 2 times 1. And I encourage you to find all three of them. Don't just assume because there's a number 1 here or number 1 here that means that's going to be used in your equation. It's not. It's length times width times height. So we know that the bottom figure has the area already of 10 cubic feet. But what's this figure? This little space right here, from here to here, what is its length? Some of you might be fooled and think, oh, it's 2 feet. See, it says 2 feet, but 2 feet is from the top of here all the way to the bottom down here. So what is this length? We do have the clue here that this one here is 5 feet, but 5 feet goes all the way across the bottom. But if we look here, we have 1 foot here that we can take off. That would make 4 feet, and another foot here we could take off. So this space right here, which they're trying to represent up here at the top, is 3 feet. And the reason why it's 3 feet is because we have 5 feet down here at the bottom, which is the same distance here from over here all the way over to here. But then we have to subtract 2 because we have 1 foot here and the other foot here. Now, as far as the width, it does not say what the width is, but we can tell what the width is from over here. So we know that the width is automatically going to be 2 feet. And I would just say, write that right on the problem. But now we need to find out what's the height. And once again, we have a few clues. One clue is it says the entire shape is 2 feet. And the bottom half is 1 foot. So 2 feet minus 1 foot is 1 foot. Okay. Now, if you don't understand that, that's okay. Hit pause, go back and see if you could understand it on a second try by listening to the same thing again. But the key is dividing the shape into 2 separate figures, then finding the length, width, and height of one of them, the length, width, and height of the second one. And then you're going to add the 2 together. So let me erase this so we can move on to the next page. And you see, I've drawn the line here. And so we've made a determination what those missing figures are. Okay. And we decided that they are 3 feet and 1 foot. So it says, write the unknown dimensions of the composed figure. Describe how you found the answer. So you can write, I found 3 feet by subtracting Let me extend this a little bit over here so we'll have more room. 5 feet from 2 feet. And then to find the other one, I would say I found 1 foot by subtracting 2 feet from 1 foot. So that's how we found those actual numbers. So let's erase this and let's delete this if I can. Whoops. Let me go back. Go back to the text. Go back in here, maybe. I'll figure this out eventually, I guarantee you. Well, okay, we're moving on with that still in there. There we go, finally. I knew I'd figure it out eventually, even though there was a little confusion there for a little bit. Draw a line to show how you can break apart Brandon's frame into two rectangular prisms and then find a volume of each prism. Now, like I said, I think that this question should have been asked first, but what I like to do is find the length, width, and height. And I like to circle three numbers. Find those three numbers and circle them. And then over here, you're going to have to find another three numbers for the second one. That's why I just like to write the 2 feet right up here. Because then you're going to have 2 feet times 1 foot times 3 feet. So the first one would be 5 feet times 2 feet times 1 foot which equals 10 cubic feet. The second one would be 3 feet times 2 feet times 1 foot, which would equal 6 cubic feet. So what is the amount of concrete that Brandon needs? Describe how you found your answer. Well, you have to add those two amounts together because you have to add the amount of the volume of the bottom one to the volume of the top. So you would take 10 cubic feet plus, and you're adding the two because you're trying to figure out what the total volume is of two separate volumes. Cubic feet equals 16 cubic feet. And the unit is still 16 cubic feet because the units are cubic feet in the addition problem. Okay? So you find what the two separate shapes are that are rectangular prisms, find their length, width, and height, and then multiply them out and then add them together. It's really that simple. And now that I know how to quickly erase all of this, it really is simple. Okay, so turn the page. Tori wants to use the design shown to build steps from solid blocks of wood. Find the amount of wood she needs to build the steps. Well, I was just taking a sneak peek of how I divided it, and it says draw a line to show how to break apart Tori's design into two right rectangular prisms, and then find the length, width, and height of each rectangular prism. So what they are asking us to do is to draw a line to show how you can break Tori's design into two right rectangular prisms and find the length, width, and height of each rectangular prism. So I am going to divide it this way. And once again, we have a problem. We know that this whole entire space is 16 inches, but we don't know how long this one is. But if we look here and see that this is 16 and that's 8, 16 minus 8 is going to be 8 inches. So this one over here is 8 inches. Okay, and then we don't have the width, but we do have it over here. So the width is going to be 8 inches. Now let's check out this one. It has a length of 8 inches. It's right there. A width of 8 inches and a height of 8 inches. So we're pretty well set. So let's see, draw a line to show how you can break apart Tori's design into two rectangular prisms, and then find the length, width, and height of each rectangular prism. So the length is 8 times 8 times 4 for the first one. And then the second one would be 8 times 8 times 8. So after you have all that written down, you can then start to figure it out. What is the volume of each of your rectangular prisms? Well, the 8 times 8 times 8 times 4, 1 is going to be 256 cubic inches. And then the second one, you could use your calculator. 8 times 8 times 8 is going to be 512 cubic inches. So write an equation to model the amount of wood that Tori needs to build the steps. So we're just going to write the entire equation out. The first one would be 4 times 8 times 8. And we're going to add these two together, plus 8 times 8 times 8. And that's our equation. What is the amount of wood that Tori needs to build the steps? We have to add these two amounts together. So 512 plus 256 is going to equal 768. $768 cubic inches. Describe how you can check your answer using unit cubes. Well, you need a lot of unit cubes. You could build the figure and count the cubes. My biggest challenge with that would be you'd need 768 unit cubes. Let's see, I guess if, well, yeah, you just put all the unit cubes from the entire class together and built this figure, I still think you'd be short. So I wouldn't recommend that, but it was just a question and we answered it. So let's move on to the next page. Before we move on to the next page, at the very bottom, it says, suppose Tori wants to make steps by cutting out wood in the shape of the right rectangular prism from a single block of wood. What could be the dimensions of the single block of wood? Well, it's funny they should say this because the very next question asks that. Consider the space above Tori's top bottom step. Write the dimensions of the space above the top step, and then find the volume of the space. So if this was 4 inches, and this was 8 inches, this one here would also be 4 inches, because 4 plus 4 is going to equal 8. This one here we already know, because we know this over here is 8 inches. And this one here, we know that this entire distance is 16 inches, and this one's 8 inches, so it's going to be 8 inches. So the volume would be multiplying those 3 numbers together. 8 times 8 times 4 is going to equal, and you could use your calculator, 256 cubic inches. If the space and the steps are combined, they form a right rectangular prism. What is the dimensions of the prism, and what is its volume? So if we look back at the other one, the other volume that we just found, we see that it is 768 plus 256, and that is going to equal 1,024 cubic inches. And I'm going to just check that to make sure that is accurate. Okay. So what is the volume when you subtract the volume of the space from the volume of the prism? Okay, so we basically find out that if we subtract the two from the amount of the entire prism, which is 1,024 minus 256, we get the actual size and volume of the step that she wanted. So basically, in doing this assignment, you need to make sure that you find the 2 equal cubes, and then find their length, width, and height, length, width, and height, and then add those 2 together. So let's take some of this and see how we can use it and checking our understanding. So we have 2 separate problems here. The first one, I would say, let's make it pretty easy. You got to start off by drawing where you're going to divide it. I divide it right here. Your length, width, and height for this bottom one is right down here. So it's going to be 2 times 5 times 8. And we know that 2 times 5 is 10, times 8 is going to make it 80 cubic inches. And then this other one, we see that we're going to have to do some investigating here. This one here says it is 6 inches. But that's this entire length. How far is this one? We're going to have to do a little subtracting. If we go over here, 6 minus 2 is going to be 4. So I like to actually write the 4 right over here. 4 inches. We know that the width is going to be the same as this one right here, so it's going to be 5 inches. And then we know that the, well, actually, this is the height, this is the length, and this is the width. So it's going to be 4 times 5 times 1. And that's going to equal 4 times 5 is 20, times 1 is going to be 20 cubic inches. And so if we take those two and put them together, 80 plus 20 equals 100 cubic inches. So let's take a look at this next one. I would say let's divide it right there. Length, width, height. Perfect for this first one. So I'm going to put in here 8 times 5 times 4. And I'm going to use the associative property. I'm going to say 5 times 4 is 20, and 20 times 8 is going to be 160 cubic inches. Oh, sorry, it's in feet, cubic feet. Now, this is the one that we're going to have to do a little bit more investigating. The length is up here. Okay, so it's 2 feet. All right. Now, this one here says the 3 feet is this height right here. Okay, and that's a little confusing because you could think, oh, look right here, that must be 3. No, we're talking about the height is 3, but what's the width? Well, this 5 right here tells us what the width is. So I'm going to write that 5 right there, because then we got to go to find the length, the width, and the height. So our 3 numbers are going to be 2 times 5 times 3. 2 times 5 times 3. 2 times 5 is 10, times 3 is going to be 30 cubic feet. So then when we add those two amounts together, 160 plus 30, that will equal 190 cubic feet. So this really is not that difficult. The biggest challenge is finding the length, width, and height, and then the length, width, and height of the other shape, and then putting the two together. And it's really important you find the correct length, width, and height, length, width, and height. So that is it for today's lesson. Your assignment will be the next couple pages. Let me get rid of this. So you have the next couple pages, 120 and 121. Once again, it's just a matter of dividing them, dividing the two rectangular prisms so that you end up with 2 separate rectangular prisms, then find the length, width, and height of each of them. So that concludes today's lesson. Please start working on page 120, 121. And after you have finished with that, you can start working on your IXLs and review number 5. Review number 6. And then also you could start working on module 5 review, which I gave you yesterday. But if you don't have it, there is some more on the counter. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Goodbye.